Hello everyone, this is Zykov Eddie and welcome to my new development commentary series. The first reason why I decided to start this series is to preserve some of the history behind my maps and mods for Duke Nukem 3D, mainly because I have a terrible memory and I'm afraid in a few short years I might forget everything. So while I remember all the important information about the development of my mods and maps and accidents that happened around them, I might as well preserve it in a video form. The second reason is to maybe, if this whole thing goes well, to inspire other map creators and modders to start their own commentary series, because this is the type of content I'm really interested in. I love to know the history behind some of the famous mods, some of the best maps like Blown Fuses and It Lives and Roach maps. Well, Gambini, he's still active in the community, but I'm not sure about the Roach series. The Red series might be fun to listen to as well. Well, anyway, so where to start? I guess I'll start with the history of how I got into map making, mapping and mod making. It all started with when I was young, about 13 years, 14 years old. I had a fascination with map editors for mainly strategy games like Warcraft 2 and Heroes of Might and Magic 2. The second one is my favorite in the series, but I also did maps for the third one, and sadly none of the maps for Heroes survived, but I did many. And if we go back, I also remember when I was really young, about 10 years old, I was playing that game called Captain Claw by Monolith Productions. You might know this company. They developed the Blood series. So Captain Claw is a kind of a platformer game, but it's very difficult. So when I was young, I wasn't able to go past the 6th level. I only played first 6 levels repeatedly, and what I did was I didn't have access to the editor. I just take the paper and the pencil. I would just start doodling, drawing my imaginary stages for the game with all the monsters, enemies, everything, the items, platforms, and so I guess that was the start of my fascination with creating worlds within games. So fast forward to 2005-2006, I discovered a game called Shadow Warrior, played it for a while, liked it, enjoyed it. By this time I considered myself a sort of expert in classic first-person shooters. I was playing Doom games, I was playing Duke Nukem games, well, the 3D one mainly, because I didn't like the first two. Anyway, so the Shadow Warrior game, it was a John of Port, and it had build editor included, and it worked with Windows. So I was able to run it and just start playing around with it. I didn't have access to the documentation. If I remember correctly, that's the F1 button. But even if I knew how to bring up the documentation, I didn't know how to speak English at the time, so that wouldn't help me really. And also I didn't have access to the internet until 2007. So what I did was just trial and error, try out different buttons and just play around, and I ended up with 5 or 6 maps. And interestingly enough, I wasn't able to run those maps in the game because there wasn't a user map section in the menu, so I didn't even have an opportunity to test them. So some of the maps survived, and you can see right on the screen some of the screenshots. And yeah, there wasn't no monsters, no items, just plain design. And yeah, so fast forward a year later, I wasn't satisfied with not being able to play my own maps in Shadow Warrior, and I discovered in my school there was a computer science class, and on a bookshelf I found a particular book called, I still have it in my possession, it's called Secrets of Computer Games Volume 1. And this particular book had a section about mapping for Duke Nukem 3D. I scanned some of the pages, and what I did was I just cut out all the pages related to Duke Nukem editing and just use it wherever I needed it. By this time my dad downloaded for me Duke 32 and Mapster 32, and he gave it to me. He was the only person who had internet in our house at the time, so he downloaded for me some of the best maps and mods, and also the editor and the Duke 32 engine. So with the help of this documentation, I was able to start my own maps for Duke Nukem 3D and also test them, because Duke had the user map section. So the thing about this documentation is it's really easy to read. It's in Russian. As I said at the time, I didn't know how to speak English very well, and still don't. But even if I did get a hold of the English documentation, I wouldn't be able to read it. And also, I don't remember, but at the time I don't know if there was an English documentation with pictures and easy interface and such. So this was a saving grace for me, this little section, and without it I wouldn't probably get into the Duke Nukem 3D mapping. So what I did first was I did some of the test maps, and the first one was this one, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it was this one. So as you can see, it's very bare bones. It's mostly for testing purposes. So there's a small waterfall, and this is the falling ceiling triggered by the explosion. Here's the mirror, and those pillars. Those are really interesting. At the time, I didn't know which number corresponds with each sound from the game. So what I did was create this just loads of door sectors and just give them various variables and just hear from the game which number corresponds with each sound from the game. And yeah, that's how I did it. This looks weird. Okay, so some doors here. This one is bugged. This one is really bugged. This one works fine, I guess. This one works fine too, except of the texture, mesolite texture on the ceiling. So yeah, so this was my main testing map. And what I did next was try to make some playable levels. So I didn't want to just make a level. I wanted to make to create a whole episode, whole original episode. So what I did was start making a sort of prequel to Duke Nukem 3D. So that will be episode number 0. I ended up creating 2 levels in this prequel episode. I don't know the storyline and the logic behind it. I don't know what kind of story I would come up with for the prequel, but it's just 2 plain levels, not very good levels. So as you can see, here's the bug. I can't now access the street from this side. So let's go. Here's the slightly bugged piggy. Here's the secret area. No, oh, it's stuck. A secret area. All right. So if you're familiar with my mods, you might recognize this map as a secret map that I included with Infestation in Time episode. I mean the mod. There was 2 episodes, and I think this secret map ended up in the second episode. But that version of the map was heavily edited and was all around better than this one, but it basically became a different map by this point. So this one is the original. This one is the first playable level I did, I think. Well, I mean the first Duke Nukem 3D style playable level, because there was also the other one that I did after the testing map, and I'll show it to you in a bit. So yeah, it's very basic. Just here's the bookshop, and we're gonna cheat because if I play all of the levels without the cheats today, we'll be here all day. So yeah, it's a small level, but I want to show you something. Oh, okay, very big. I don't know what these areas are for. I can't remember. We'll come back to it. So yeah. Oh, okay. I remember now. It doesn't work so well anymore. But oh, god damn it! God damn it! So in the first versions of Duke 32, in the earlier versions, there was a feature, so-called early terror, where if you put certain sector effectors on the sectors, it would create, for example, transparent water. It doesn't work anymore because I'm playing it in the newer version, but you see what I mean. And yeah, that's why I put all of the empty sectors here. It was I think it was required by the sector effector to work. Anyway, I want to show you something interesting. So okay, I take the teleporter and I end up on the moon, I guess. And yeah, this section might look familiar to you. Let me show you the second map in the prequel series that I never finished. So this is level 2, and as you can see, looks oddly familiar. That's because this is the very early version of the first map of the Moonbase Accident episode that I released later. So yeah, this version is even worse. There are a lot of mapping mistakes. Let me show you some of them. The lighting here is pretty bad. I wasn't good with the lighting at the time, and still not great, but it was worse then. So yeah, much of the map is preserved in Moonbase Accident version. Let me see. Yeah, there's the secret room, and this secret room, the textures are all messed up because at the time I was using the Duke It Out in DC texture pack, so I used some of the textures here, and the newer versions of Moonbase Accident don't use it. So this is where the messed up textures come from. So as you can see, it's mostly the same. Looks worse, I'd say. There's no ship here, and there's no reactor core section here, but mostly the same. So yeah. Alright, so after that I scrapped it and started my new episode. First, I made a remake of the second level from the prequel episode, and at the time I wanted to release it separately, but my dad said, well, you did such a good level, might as well make some more and maybe do that episode thing you was thinking about. And I agreed, because a whole episode of levels is obviously much better than the single level. So what I did next was the second level I did was probably Gamma Station, the one where you start a big reactor explosion. And yeah, so that level was supposed to be the second one in the Moonbase Accident. So I sat down and started doing levels, mostly inspired by William Gee's work at the time, because his VG space series were really popular, and they just were. I was a big fan of William Gee at the time, so I was heavily inspired by him. So I mostly did big space levels, space maps. Only this level was the cramped one, and I agree it's pretty bad in that regard. It's pretty cramped up and looks sloppy. The later levels were much bigger, more polished, And so I made about 5 original levels, and this is where the embarrassing part comes in, because you see, at the time I also had that CD of Duke Nukem 3D levels compiled from the internet, and the CD was released in the Russian market in the 90s, and the levels mostly were shit, complete garbage, but there were a few good ones. And what I did was just to open some of the levels in the editor and just start playing around with them. And I decided to remake 2 of my favorite levels from the CD, and those levels ended up being 2009 and Discrete. And at the time I wasn't worried about the plagiarize issue that much, because I ended up turning them into something else and putting a lot of work into them, so I thought, well, those are my levels now, I guess. So by my logic it was alright, and when I released the first version of Moonbase Accident, it had those 2 remakes included in the episode. So the first version of Moonbase Accident had 7 levels in total, 2 of them being secret levels. So the Discrete level was, I guess, the pretty obscure one. Nobody called me about it. Nobody called me out about plagiarizing Discrete map, but it turns out the 2009 level is pretty famous, because it's one of the earliest levels created for Duke Nukem 3D, and it's a pretty good level as it is. So, as genius as I am, I included the remake of the 2009 level as first level of Moonbase Accident, and you can imagine the feedback that I got at first, because people called me out right away. They said this is obviously the 2009 level, and the thing is, at the time there was also another Russian mapper who was plagiarizing other maps, but he was less subtle about it, let's say. His name is Sanyok, and yeah, he was pretty notorious for this at the time, and people just thought I was Sanyok under the different nickname, and yeah, it was pretty bad. So my dad was pretty disappointed, because I didn't have a 3D Realms forums account, so he had to make a thread here, and he got all these negative comments. He was pretty embarrassed. So what I did was just to scrap those 2 levels and close the thread and just redo everything, make some new levels, polish the existing levels, the original ones, and while at it, let's just take a look at those 2 infamous levels. So this is a Discrete level, the original version. So here's the starting area. Here's the fish tank. Here's the next area, crusher, 2 crushers. The reason why I like this level so much, well, first you got those crushers that crash the enemies, pretty fun. And also there was this power station area, and if you go here, flip the switch, it starts exploding, and it explodes for a long time. It looked really cool at the time. Just look at this. Yeah, that's the stuff. So yeah, I decided to remake this level. I claim it as my own. Yeah, here's the one-way train. You get the idea. So let's take a look at the Moonbase Accident remake. So here's the starting area. The fish tank still has those misaligned textures, but I put more details here. Looks a little bit more polished. Here's the crusher area. Oh, I put a trap here. And here's the so-called new power station area. Oh, sorry. So let's flip a switch and watch it go. As you can see, there are more enemies here, more details. Yeah, that's the stuff. So yeah, the basic layout of the level is the same, I'd say, but there are some couple of completely new areas, such as this one. This one wasn't in the original, so this one is completely original. It has this cool scene with the tank, and nothing else special in particular, but it was original, so there's that. And it also has this original area. I think I copied it from the beta levels of Duke Nukem 3D that were available at the time. The level lord silver levels, as I like to call them. And yeah, I ended up remaking this section in numerous projects, and the one that comes to mind is A.Dream series. So yeah, there's that. And now let's take a look at the 2009 map. So we start in this area with the glass containers. And here's the next area. Those things crush you, if I remember correctly. Yes, they do. Oh no. Let's go back. Yeah, this shit happens sometimes. So yeah, there's the corridor with the doors, and as you can see, for such an early level, this one is pretty damn good. It has lots of variety. It has a train, it has some button puzzles, some neat effects such as this door right here. Pretty good. And here's the loading bay area. Here's the nice looking early 90s spaceship. And here's the train area. The middle part is inaccessible. And yeah, here's the area with the exploding ceiling. And I want to point out the two areas. First one is this I don't know, this tunnel area where the player gets the yellow card. I remember this area. And second one is, let's see here, oh, the spaceship area, the final area where you finish the level. Remember this one as well. So let's take a look at the Moonbase Accident remake. So as I said, this was the first level of the episode, and we start in this teleporter area. I guess this is the air dock section. Duke must have entered here, and there we go. Looks familiar, but this time there's more explosions, more destruction. I replaced those annoying windows with the air vents. More explosions, more destruction. So yeah, this is the corridor with the switches, and here's the completely original area. Let me cheat a little bit here. And this area has the original entrance to the secret level. So it works like this. You go towards this tunnel, and this white area, I guess, corrupts the tunnel, and you enter the psychedelic realm of Deeper Silver level. So this is how the original secret exit to the Deeper Silver level looked like. Let's go back. So let's see here. Oh, no, not here. So this is the second original area, this cavern system. Where the player gets some weapons. There was supposed to be keycard. Oh, there we go. So this is the new and improved loading bay area. So what I want to say is, those are not bad remakes in my opinion, but the crucial mistake was not giving the original mappers a credit, because I wanted to claim those maps as my own, which is wrong, and I deserved the feedback that I got at the time, because this is plagiarism is really bad. So this is the new train area. This middle part is now accessible, and here's the another completely original area, this puzzle area where you make this bridge appear, and you're supposed to jump over this gap or you die, which is not difficult if you memorize it, but it's just a little bit challenging, I'd say. And somehow it's connected to the train area outside, because I guess I wasn't satisfied that this train area just has no purpose in it, so I wanted to branch out. And there's that explosives area. There's some original areas out there. Alright, so remember that tunnel area I was talking about? Well, at first I was planning to use it in my version of the map, but I decided to scrap the idea, and I didn't know how to remove sectors at the time, so I just crossed it out. Like, never mind this area, guys, doesn't matter, it doesn't exist, it's crossed out, it's fine. Yeah, and as you might have guessed, I wasn't able to remove the spaceship area, so it's crossed out as well. but I can't enter it from here. It looks the same, I think, as the original one. So yeah, I guess it took me about half a year to make a new version of Moonbase Accident, and the final version had 6 levels instead of 7, because I ended up making a new level and just releasing it as it is.